Mr Speaker, we need action on so many fronts to tackle this climate emergency, but time is limited, so I'm going to speak about just one, and unsurprisingly that is about the fact that 30% of our global greenhouse gas emissions are attributable to our food system. If we don't make changes, food and farming system will single-handedly use up our Paris Climate Agreement emissions budget within the next 30 years. Yet there is still a woeful failure to rise to the challenge, and there is no excuse. From the UN to the IPCC to Eat Lancet to Chatham House to academics from Harvard and Oxford, many, many more. I have a pile this big in my office of reports. There have been endless wake-up calls, and yet politicians are still hitting the snooze button. Lots of things contribute to the climate impact of our food system. The use of fossil fuels and synthetic nitrogen fertilisers on farms, methane emissions from ruminants, transportation and refrigeration. If food waste were a country, it would have the third highest carbon footprint behind China and the USA. But the biggest impact is from land use. 48% of UK land is used for animal agriculture, and 55% of that is used for animal feed rather than grown food that is directly eaten by humans. The destruction of the Amazon rainforest is driven by industrial farming, destroying habitats, biodiversity and natural carbon sinks. It's been over 10 years since I held a debate on the environmental impact of the livestock sector in Westminster Hall. To say the reaction I got then was hostile is an understatement. But now it feels like there's a breakthrough, and that's been led by the public, and actually the private sector has responded to that public demand. It's not being led by politicians, and I really think we need to rise to the challenge and start talking about it. So we need a net zero emissions target by 2040 in the Agriculture Bill, which the NFU now backs, and we need to reward farmers who reduce their carbon footprint. We need to plant more trees, we need to store more carbon in the soil. And yes, we need to accelerate the trend towards healthier, more sustainable diets by reducing red meat and dairy consumption by at least 30% by 2030. Last night, my honourable friend, the member for Bristol North West, and I attended an event in Soho, hosted by the Meatless Farm Company, and they're calling for people to sign up to a meatless consumption target. They've commissioned research by Joseph Poore of Oxford University, which showed that if people replaced one red meat meal a week with a plant-based meal, it would cut UK greenhouse gas emissions by some 50 million tonnes. That's reducing it by 8.4%, equivalent to taking 16 million cars off the road. I'd like to challenge all the politicians in this place that profess to care about climate change to take up that challenge.
Dr. Caroline Johnson.